If you lack clarity on where you need to grow your confidence, you will not be able to fully reach the potential of your purpose, period. What's up, team? Welcome back to Practice the Podcast, where we fuse research and culture to help you develop the mindset, habits, and skills you need in order to live out your purpose with confidence. I'm your host, Coach Rees, and it's time to get better. Let's go.
We talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Practices are meant to be competitive. They're meant to be competitive. If your practices aren't more competitive than the games themselves, you're doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, y'all. So I'm like super duper pumped for this episode. And in writing it, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to stay within time. So I'm going to do my best. But then I know like this isn't the only episode. There's plenty more to come. So this is just going to be a taste of what's to come in the future of Practice the Podcast. I've been doing a lot of introspection on myself and you-ish and the podcast and how I want to not only just like deliver the podcast, but how I really want you to be able to like gain some tangible life-changing things from this medium. I love to speak. I love to teach. I love to learn. And this podcast is just one way that I'm able to like take everything that I'm passionate about, everything that I'm learning, and throw it in to one form. And so if you watch, if you listen, you subscribe, I truly appreciate you. But I want you to know that today we gonna get better. That's the only way that I can say this. We're gonna get better. And what's hilarious is I was like, I haven't done a specific episode on confidence. Obviously, I talk about it in multiple different ways, but I haven't done one episode focus on confidence. And I was like, the buck stops here. It's got to happen. So here we are today. We're talking about confidence, and I'm bringing some of my favorite people to the table to help me do that. So our quote for this episode is from none other than Kobe Bryant, the man, Kobe Bryant, where he said, the confidence comes from preparation. Somebody asked Kobe, where do you get your confidence from? Like, when you do your Kobe thing, where do you get it from? And he just eloquently says, the confidence comes from preparation. Period. Because hoopers hoop, shooters shoot, writers write, speakers speak, like teachers teach, whatever it is that you do it. But the confidence that you do it with, my boy, it comes from preparation. And the reason why this is so important is because you cannot be confident without preparation, period. I don't care what anybody tells you. You cannot be confident without preparation. Anything else is not confidence. It may be luck. It just may be that was dope. It happened, which I guess goes back to luck. But confidence, it's based off preparation, y'all. Period. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So Kobe said, the confidence comes from preparation. We're going to get more into that later. But our song for this episode is coming from our boy, Big Sean, right? This is where we infuse that culture piece. He's got a song called Why Would I Stop? And when I listen to the song, I'd be like, why would I stop? I am unstoppable. Why would I stop? Yeah, I am unstoppable. And this song makes me think about confidence because when you take what Kobe said and you say, I put in the reps. Why would I stop? I'm a shooter. Why would I stop shooting? I'm a teacher. Why would I stop teaching? I'm a speaker. Why would I stop speaking? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's in me. Why would I stop? I am unstoppable. And this doesn't mean that we don't fail, because we're going to talk about that later. So make sure you stick around. But once you've put in so many reps, like, of doing your thing, you should get to a level of self-clarity and confirmation and affirmation that you're just like, let's go. This is why this is practice. This is why I'm saying that Coach Rees and me comes out. I couldn't do this podcast any other way because it would be inauthentic. And so when I hear Big Sean say, why would I stop? I am unstoppable. You know what I think about? I don't think about all of the games I played. I think about practice. And I promise you, this right here just come to the top of mind. This ain't even scripted. When I think about that song, I think about what Kobe talked about, the preparation. I did this same exact thing 1,000 times. So when it comes to the game, I'm just doing the same thing I already did 1,000 times before. When I think of why would I stop? I'm unstoppable. I think of the confidence that's developed in putting in the reps. Now, if you're not a hooper, you got to apply this to whatever your lane is, whatever your game is, whatever it is you need practice at. So if it's writing, speaking, teaching, preaching, being a parent, I don't care. You just got to get the reps in. Without the reps, you don't have anything. So I develop the thought process and the mindset of being unstoppable because when I'm in the gym by myself and I'm, and finish, y'all, like it's that feeling right there of messing up over and over and over. And then you get it, and then you get it, and then you get it. And you're like, hell yeah, it's that right there. So before we even go any further, I need you to figure out what your relationship is with preparation. Before we go any further, you got to figure out what is your relationship with preparation, because your relationship with preparation is going to dictate your ability to be confident. Come on. So why would I stop? Your relationship with preparation is going to dictate your ability to be...
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, come on, Siri. Your relationship with preparation is going to dictate your ability to be unstoppable. That's it. So in order for us to continue to move forward, I got to obviously give us the research. You're like, okay, Coach Rees, research and culture. We got our culture piece, but I'm going to go research. I'm going to go right back to the bag. Research-wise, our hook, our focus for this episode, we're talking about all the psychology. Positive psychology, cognitive psychology, behavioral psychology, and organizational, which they're all pretty much in the same kind of loop because organizations are based off of people and people are positive, cognitive, behavioral, right? So everything that I'm about to talk to you about is all research based. Everything that Kobe just said, why would I stop Big Sean? It's all research based, but it's coming through in a different way. I'm excited, y'all. We got to keep moving. So here's the story that I want to tell today that just really puts a big smile on my face. I want to use the development of Issa Rae as our focal point. So think about if you're an Issa Rae fan, when I get pictures on my wall, she will be a picture on my wall. I am an awkward black girl, period. So when I see Issa Rae do anything, I'm going to support it. If I see Issa Rae do, I'm going to double tap it. I'm going to like it. I'm going to go see it. I'm going to follow it, whatever, because she represents us awkward black girls in the most confident way. But I want to talk about that specific thing. So if you're unfamiliar with Issa Rae, you got to go figure that out on your own. You got to Google her. But her development is what it looks like, I believe, to live a confident life. Think all the way back to how she got started with Awkward Black Girl. She started in college, Awkward Black Girl series, and that was it. For her to just be like, this is who I am. I'm going to be Awkward Black Girl, but I like film, so I'm going to create, I'm going to just do it and just go. Obviously, there's more to her story, and we'll depict that in future episodes, but that was the inception of how we got to where she is now, how she got to where she is now. She embraced her. She identified as an awkward black girl. That just was what it was. So then you fast forward all these years and now she's got Insecure. Insecure is the next level to her Awkward Black Girl series that she started on YouTube years ago. And it's just so funny that Insecure, right, is the title of it. And obviously this episode's about confidence, but the term and the reason why she used Insecure is the awkward black girl more times than not would be insecure, but to also show like the full picture of humanity of young black women and young black human beings in their early 20s and 30s. And a lot of us feel really insecure and not really confident about who we are. I know I saw myself-ish a little bit in the show just because there wasn't many or any people in the LGBTQ community. Anyways, that's besides the point. But I saw myself just as a black woman depicted in the show over all the things that they talked about and stumbled through. So to that point though, you see Issa, not Issa in the show, but like Issa Rae, like the real human, develop. If you go back and Google Awkward Black Girl series and you look at a picture of Issa now, you'll be like, one, dang, glow up, massive, right? Just in general. But I believe that started from the inside out. I believe Issa Rae is who she is now, in a go at what she does, in a pioneer, because she committed to herself. She betted on her purpose. She stayed authentic to who she was. And that was the train and the hill that she decided to die on. Is I'm going to be me regardless. And I believe you can only be confident when you decide to be you regardless. Okay, so that's the first piece we learned from Issa. Then once I learn and decide that I'm going to be me regardless, then I start to get reps at all the things that make me that much more me. And Issa got reps at being her, at being her, at being her, that she became that much more confident in who she was. And that's why I talk about the glow up, not from just a physical stance, but you do see a physical transformation because she doubled down on who she was and found all these other areas of how can I grow and be better, but still remain true to me. And I think that right there is the epitome of what does it mean to double down on you, to be able to grow and be authentic and really be able to exude confidence in who you are and all that you do. Okay. So for funsies, I want you to go and watch Issa's speech at the Emerging Entrepreneurs Award back in 2019. And I'm definitely going to weave that into an episode in the future, but just listen to it for fun. And I'm going to talk about it again as we get to the end of the episode. So, all right, y'all, it's time to dive in. We're about to get better. Let's get it. So here's what I want you to think about. When we're talking about confidence, I want to hit on 3 specific areas today when we're talking about confidence. Number 1, in order for us to really talk about confidence, we have to talk about like insecurity, because insecurity, and this is no correlation really to the show Insecure, but insecurity, that feeling of insecurity, I think is what drives sometimes cockiness. And some people might say all the time, but I believe that somebody who displays either high cockiness or really low insecurity or self-esteem is suffering from insecurity in a certain way. So let me put this together real quick before we move any further. I believe the difference between cockiness and confidence is humility, but not because people who are confident think less of themselves, but because I think people who are confident have their confidence anchored in a intense self-awareness that allows them to know, wow, I'm really good based off of putting in their reps. They know their strengths, but they also know I can still get better. They also fall to under leadership and mentorship of other people. They also want to be able to grow. They have a keen sense of self-awareness and self-management, self-regulation, self-certainty, right? They understand themselves on another level that oftentimes those folks who I believe display a high sense of cockiness don't have the ability to comprehend. The other thing that I think is a difference between cockiness and confidence is the people who display, I believe, confidence also have a level of emotional confidence, emotional maturity, emotional efficacy that folks who suffer from cockiness do not have. So let me re-say that in a better way. I believe the difference between cockiness and confidence, number 1, lies in humility, the humility to know thyself, the ability to self-regulate, and number 2, the emotional confidence, the emotional efficacy, and the emotional regulation that somebody who displays authentic confidence versus somebody who is cocky. Now, that right there in itself is a whole nother episode, and we'll dive into that later, but I wanted to give that ground explanation on why I think confidence and cockiness look a little bit different. And I think cockiness is sometimes anchored in insecurity. So let's dive in there. Insecurity, I think, is sometimes anchored by a lack of clarity. If I'm unclear, I'm going to be, I might stutter. I might not, I'm in a two-step. I'm not going to know how to show up. I'm going to feel a certain way. Like insecurity is going to, it's going to show up in a way that is soft and weak, unclear, muddled, foggy, all of those things, right? And so versus somebody who is confident, they show up and they carry themselves a specific way. I also believe when we go back to Kobe's quote and he talks about the confidence comes from reps, which to me means the insecurity is going to come from the lack of reps. So if you feel like you're insecure in any way, in anything, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a content creator and you struggle with speaking, get in the reps. Get in the reps. If you get in the reps, I promise you this is going to help subside your fear of failure, your fear of messing up, or the insecurities you have in doing the things that you want to do, right? So now let's move from insecurity to imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome we have to talk about because oftentimes people might think that imposter syndrome is the feeling of insecurity specifically, or that people who have or are confident may not suffer from imposter syndrome. Here's what imposter syndrome pretty much means and looks like in the grand scheme of things. Imposter syndrome is a form of self-doubt. Imposter syndrome is a form of self-doubt that comes through a thought, okay? Self-doubt that comes through a thought, and you have it. The key here is I believe when you are confident, you have the ability to snatch that thought. You just say, Because if you go back to what I said about the person who is confident versus cocky, that humility enables them to be emotionally confident and have emotional efficacy. So what that means is because of my self-awareness, I can be as confident as I need to be. And when imposter syndrome starts to TLC creep on up into my mind, I can say, wait. That thought doesn't align with who I am. That thought doesn't align with how I want to be. That thought doesn't align with truth. So when I'm a confident being, I can snatch imposter syndrome thoughts up and say, you don't align with truth, so I'm not believing you. Period. It doesn't align. But if I don't know myself, if I'm not self-aware and I have specific thoughts, I'm not going to know what thoughts don't align with the truth. So I got to know me. So when you know you, you're going to know your thoughts. You're going to know the root of your thoughts and where they came from and which ones align with the truth. And the truth is rooted in your reps. If you put in reps and you know how to get better, you've been seeing yourself get better, you say, boom, period. So whatever thought rises up, you're not good enough to be here. You didn't work hard enough. You don't deserve this. You're not worthy. You can say, boy, that's not it. And the reason why that's not it is because you know you put in the work. You've seen yourself succeed. You've embraced your relationship with failure. You understand what it means for you to prepare and prepare well so you can show up and do what you got to do. But if you don't know you, that's when that insecurity, it might be like, So if you're insecurity and imposter syndrome knows exactly where to attack and you actually didn't put in the work, well then of course, the imposter syndrome is going to win over. So that's where you got to go back and say, okay, boom. Where does my confidence lie? What's my relationship with preparation? How is it that I really, really want to get better? Because in order for me to get better, in order for me to be confident, in order for me to capture imposter syndrome thoughts, I have to be able to know thyself, which is anchored in humility, y'all. All right, team. So now that we've talked about insecurity, imposter syndrome, it's time for us to narrow in on confidence, okay? So confidence is a psychological mindset. If you listen to any of my videos, you've heard me say this before. Confidence is a psychological mindset. Boom. Okay, Coach Rees, what does that even mean? What is a psychological mindset? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Remember, our research is based off of positive, cognitive, and behavioral psychology. So the psyche is our mind, right? Our psychological thought process of ourself, our mindset. Where is our mindset? Our mind is set. Our psyche is set on being confident. The word I'm going to use, or the phrase I'm going to use now, is self-certainty. So confidence is having a sense of self-certainty about you, that you are, you're firm, you understand, you have peace and experience joy with being who you are. This is where authenticity comes in. This is where self-acceptance comes in, reassurance, right? This is the opposite of self-doubt. This is the opposite of feeling inauthentic, is that self-certainty, and that confidence is built off of, I know because I've done and I stand in who I am. Okay. That's the mindset. And so a lot of people say, oh man, I lost my confidence. I beg to differ. I don't really know if you can lose, you can lose your confidence when you stop developing it. So let me go that direction. Confidence is a psychological mindset that can be developed. Again, we got to go back to the top with our quote from Kobe. How did Kobe become so confident? Because he put in the reps. How do people be insecure? Because you're not putting in the reps, right? So if I start to put in the reps, I'm going to start seeing myself succeed and getting the wins. Okay, whatever that area looks like for you. You lose confidence not because you failed one time. You lose confidence not because you went out and you didn't win everything, or it didn't go your way 1, 2, or 3 times. You lose confidence when you stop preparing. You lose confidence when you when you get too cocky to prepare. Boy, here's what I'm saying, okay? I'm saying this. Go back to the thought process of the difference between cockiness and confidence, y'all. The cocky person is going to rely more times than not strictly off of talent. And they may work hard. I can think of a lot of cats who may be cocky and work really hard, but sometimes they're overcompensating for something else. And I think that's the inability for them to really be humble and emotionally confident, right? And self-aware. That's one piece. But the other thing is, a lot of people will get confident because you can work for it, and then they stop working. You work for it and then you stop working, and then you go, man, I'm starting to. So this is where the benefit of being just a student of a learner, I'm gonna use learner specifically, being a learner of your craft, a learner of the game. When you could be a learner of your craft and a learner of the game, you will forever put in the reps. You will forever be hungry to know all you can know about it. That's where that humility comes in, because you never reach, there's no ceiling. When you're humble, there's no ceiling, because when you're humble, you'll go deeper, which allows your brain and your knowledge to grow expansive, and you'll know, wow, there's so much more out there that I want to know that I don't even know yet. That's the power, y'all, of being confident, is you're like, there's still so much more, and I get to reach my potential because I continue to drive, and I have this thrive mentality about me that some folks who are cocky just don't have, right? So because I put in the reps, because I practice, that's why this podcast is named Practice, because I want you to get the reps you need at being your best self. That's it. But you got to figure out where do those reps lie, right? Okay, so reps, practice, preparation equals confidence. You stay confident when you keep putting in the reps, right? Whew, Lord. Now real quick, I want to take us on another little path real quick, so please hang on with me, okay? There's a term called self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is, you might have heard this term, efficacy, and I used this earlier. I talked about emotional efficacy. You might have seen the word efficacy a lot of times around, and it's usually the dependability, the endurance, the wherewithal, of something, right? The belief in something, the goodness of something, right? So the durability of something. When it comes to self-efficacy, this means I believe that I have the ability to endure difficult situations, adverse situations, and continue to pursue. So self-efficacy is a best friend, cousin, sister, brother, whatever you want to say, of confidence. Because the more confident I am, the more I believe I have the ability to withstand adverse situations. So the higher my self-efficacy, the higher my psychological well-being, which means the higher my overall hope, right? The higher my overall optimism for who I am in my future and what I can do. That's why the person who's confident is like, if I fail, it's a 1 time, it's a 2 time, but I know I'm gonna learn from that joint. I'm gonna bounce back, because shooters shoot, y'all. Confident folks can still deal with imposter syndrome. It may still rise. It still rises for me. But again, because I have high self-efficacy, I believe I have the ability to endure difficult situations through the roof. So that means to me, when an imposter syndrome thought arises in my brain, I know I can snatch that joint up and throw it out. And if it keeps coming up, then I got to get to that part. I got to get to that place and figure out, okay, what do I need to do in order for me to continue to be confident in what I'm doing? All right, team. So now I want to talk about failure, because confident people still have to deal with failure, but because they have high self-efficacy and their mindset is in such a high, they have such high psychological well-being, they deal with failure different. We deal with failure different. You're going to deal with failure different. And here's how I like to see failure, okay? Failure, I've moved it back a couple places in life, right? So I now see I need to know how to do better. That's stage one. Stage two is I need to now know the skills on how to do better, because that is what I'm repping. I have to gain the knowledge on how and what. Then I need to gain the skills on how to. I rep that. Once I get in these reps, I call this experiential capital. Now that I've got the knowledge, the know better, I now have the skills, the do better, I then go attempt it. And then that's where failure comes in. So I've moved failure back 3 places. Failure comes in there. But I use failure as a way to learn from my experiences. Failure is not a bad thing. Failure is how I gain my lessons. So I need to know based off the knowledge, I need to know based off the experience, and I need to reflect. Why did I fail? How did I fail? And what did I not do? Did I not know everything I needed to know? Did I not do everything I needed to do? Did I do it wrong? Where did I mess up? Because now we're making failure, and this concept of failure isn't brand new, but I think the way that I'm saying it is gonna hit different. Okay, because you're giving yourself more grace at the beginning of your process. So now when I'm looking at failure, I'm looking at failure through the lens of reflection. That's what I'm encouraging you to do. As a confident human being, I look at failure through the lens of reflection only. Not as a period, not as a stop, not as a label for who I am, but as through the lens of reflection to tell me what I need to do better and how do I get after it. Because again, why would I stop? I am unstoppable. And if I know that I'm unstoppable, failure is not going to be the thing that stops me, period. Okay? So as you are on this journey of developing your confident mindset, of developing your self-efficacy, of developing a strong well-being, you have to change your relationship with failure, y'all. And you have to look at failure through the lens of reflection. When I look at failure through the lens of reflection, this is going to allow me to keep going. So when I keep going, that allows me to get to that place of self-certainty, because when I keep going, that gives me the reps. Okay. And this is very important for me to throw in on this episode, because I don't want you to think that people who are confident don't deal with failure. We just deal with it different. So you got to deal with it different. You got to change your relationship with failure in order for you to be able to endure it. That's where that self-efficacy piece comes in. All right, team. So now it's time for the drills and skills. We done talked about insecurity, imposter syndrome, confidence, failure, all the above. So now how do we become unstoppable? How do we put in the reps? How do we go from awkward to insecure to confident? How do we do it? This is how I think we do it. Here's our 3 drills and skills. Let's make it happen, okay? Number 1, I need you to identify where you lack confidence. Identify. Like where is it that you feel like you lack confidence? I lack confidence here. And here's what you can do is you can allow your imposter syndrome to speak to that place. You can allow your insecurities to speak to that place. You can allow your failures to speak to that place for you. But if you don't sit down or walk or whatever, or swim or run, whatever, if you don't get to a space of that allows you to be self-reflected, you're not going to know where you lack confidence and where you need to grow confidence. And if you are unsure and unclear, if you lack clarity on where you need to grow your confidence, you will not be able to fully reach the potential of your purpose, period. It is what it is. So I need you to get to a space where you can get to the root of where is it that I lack confidence, okay? Number 2, I need you to write down a list of all the skills. What are the skills you need in order for you to be unstoppable in your lane? I don't care what it is you do, how you do what you do, whatever. There's certain skills that you need in order for you to not be showing up in spaces feeling insecure, in order for you to not be showing up in spaces and feeling like you're dealing with imposter syndrome that won't go away. I need you to identify the skills and you need to write them down. I need, and then how do I develop them? Who do I need to help me develop them? What do I need to go to? Because what needs to happen is you need to figure out how you're gonna put in the reps, okay? You also need to, one, identify the skill, identify how you're going to develop them, and then what's going to be the reward, right? The reward may not be an external reward, like you go out and buy yourself something, but the reward may be you feel more confident, okay? But you feel more confident in doing it, but what's going to be another added benefit of that thing? And number 3, practice, period. You cannot develop confidence without practicing. You cannot develop confidence without putting in the reps, okay? So I hope that you got something out of this. I know I spoke really kind of fast. I'm trying to shorten the length of these podcasts because just so I can do more and add more and be more versatile in other ways and not be spending so much time in these. And I want people to be able to listen to them, and I want them to be concise, and I want to be able to speak more concise. So that's one area I'm growing my confidence is being able to be more concise and precise with my delivery. So here's what I want you to know. Confidence is about doubling down on who you are, getting in the reps in the areas that you need reps in that align with your purpose, and then creating an environment that supports you and your development. And then what you got to do is just keep on keeping on. And also, while you're in the midst of this, you got to develop. I want you again to listen to that Issa acceptance speech, because the way that she delivers that is in a way that says, if you don't know me, it's irrelevant. And that's a part of confidence. And it's not cocky. To some, this may seem cocky, but I promise you it's not. Because if you know me, you know me. And and you're not going to take offense to whatever this is. And it's oftentimes people who don't know you that got something to say about whatever. But people who really rock with you, people who know you, people who trust you and really view you as being authentic, they're not as easily offended by certain things and surface things, okay? So while you're on a mission of developing your confidence, you have to get very clear on whose opinion you care about. You cannot care about everybody's opinion, because everybody's thought process is not going to align with the vision that is on your heart and in your mind and who it is you're created to be. All right, team, that's it for today's practice. I hope that you felt like you got in here, you got better, you learned something new, you learned some skills on how to live out your purpose with confidence. Until next time, keep being you, be the model of everything it is that you've never seen. Continue to press down and double down on being who it is that you were created to be, because I always want you to remember that you are worthy. I'm your host, Coach Rees. Until next time, practice the podcast. Peace.